Hey guys, this is Oliver from Spitfire Audio, and today I have the pleasure to be here with Claire M. Singer. We're going to talk about her musical background, her debut album, and the Union Chapel organ. Hi Claire.
Hi.
So, how did you start your musical journey?
I guess officially I started my musical journey when I was 7 years old, and a woman came into my classroom and said, would anyone like to audition to play cello? I did not know what a cello was, but I knew I wanted to get out of class, so I put up my hand, and then I actually found that then I was given this instrument the same size as me, and that's when I started playing cello. At the age of 11, I started playing piano, and then started joining bands when I was about 13. So I played classically with cello, but also more kind of diverse stuff with the bands. So I feel like that's kind of what's brought me to the place that I am today.
Amazing. And how did you fall in love with the organ?
So the organ, I actually started writing for about 12 years ago when I was asked to write a piece for the Sound Festival in Aberdeen. I hadn't really had any experience with a pipe organ before that, but my grandparents had a Hammond organ at home, so I was familiar with that. But I remember having the first session with Roger Williams, who I was writing the piece for, and just could not believe the diverse scope of what that instrument was capable of. And I was totally hooked. And from then on, I felt like I knew a secret, and I wanted everyone to know how amazing this instrument was, and was really surprised that there wasn't a lot of contemporary music being written for the organ, and I just thought that was such a shame. So yeah, that's when it all began.
Was that kind of the inspiration for the debut album as well, or?
Yeah, so it wasn't until I actually joined Union Chapel as music director that I sat down with the organ and started experimenting myself. Before that, I had written organ pieces for another organist to play. But I feel now that my work has really developed from me just sitting and learning the instrument and playing it in my own way, and that's how the pieces from the album came about.
Can you elaborate a little bit more, like what you did on the album, and especially the main piece, the Mullen Diner?
Yeah, so the Mollen Diner was kind of an exploration that took about a year in the process to make. Wow. And it came out of various improvisations that I was doing either live or just on my own here in the chapel at 3 a.m. And yeah, it just kind of came together really slowly to what it is now. But it is a completely scored piece. And even although the timings are always a little bit different, because I don't work to a click track, it's just how, when I feel I want to go to the next note, I go. The kind of order of the stops and the notes are all scored.
Okay, amazing. And how does it work? How, within your performance, if you were to elaborate a little bit with the stops and your technique?
Yeah, so I very much use the mechanical stop action of our organ, which means that when you pull a stop with mechanical stops, then you can control how much wind goes into the pipe at any given time. Whereas with an electric stop, then it's either on or off. And so when you pull out a stop really slowly, you can really explore different harmonics. And having spent so much time with that organ, I know pretty much every sound that can come out of that instrument. And so it's all about exploring these kind of half stops and the delicate harmonics produced.
Amazing. So can you tell us a little bit more about your work as the musical director of the Union Chapel organ?
Yeah, so I just launched a festival last year called Reframed, and it's all about commissioning new music for organ from artists and composers of all different backgrounds. And this has kind of been a mission for me since I first wrote the very first organ piece 12 years ago, in letting out the secret that it's such an amazing instrument. And so I understand that, you know, many composers don't have access to an organ because it's usually in a church, which, you know, it's hard to get access, or, you know, you can't take it home and write for it. So it's all about giving artists and composers opportunity to come and work with our organ and write new, challenging works.
Fantastic. So, and what is so special about this specific organ here, and how has it kind of influenced your music or your album?
So this organ is very unique in that we also have water hydraulic power as well as the electric blowing system. And the last time I checked, it was one of 2 organs left in the country with this. Our water hydraulics were restored when we had the full organ restored. And now you can use that as an alternative. It's not got the same kind of power as you would with the electric blowing system. So for the Mullen Diner, for example, you have to use the electric blowing system, but for more traditional works, you can use the water power, and it's really nice to have it on.
And it changes the sound depending what you use?
It doesn't change the sound, it just doesn't have the same power. So you couldn't, for example, put your whole arm on the keyboard and get it to, you know, keep up. It doesn't have the strength. Yeah.
And production-wise, so we've recorded your piece the same way as we recorded our sample library. And how did you produce it on your album?
So I wanted the organ to be very close mic'd because I play a lot with the mechanical action and the different harmonics coming through. I wanted to make sure that I captured it from the moment that you hear that first sound. And so I think we ended up having around 6 to 8 microphones in the organ loft. We had some out here as well, but in the mix I ended up discounting all of the ones out here because I just really wanted to get that clean sound of the wind entering pipes. Of course, then you take away this beautiful acoustic. And so then it was the problem of getting the organ back into the room and, you know, playing about with, I think, every single reverb that exists to try and just treat it slightly to give it a softer sound. But I got there in the end.
Amazing. Well, fantastic. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching Claire M. Singer.